delete can it and be done with it. The executive board has the plenary power to create ad hoc committees at will, and it could have done it, and I had discussions where we were going to create a bylaws committee. I wanted to, in the interest of fairness, say, we're not going to leave it up to the executive committee, we're going to leave it up to the members. So when I explained, and I will, mea culpa, I guess I wasn't clear, when I said it's going to be anyway, people, yes, a roll call was called for, and I said, yes, we can do a roll call. It was 80-some degrees, and what I said was, it's not really necessary, because whether the vote passes or not, we're going to have a bylaws committee. So it wasn't really that important. And if you guys want to take a vote and rescind the motion to commit tonight, by all means.
That's not what this is. That's not what this is.
I'm just explaining to you why.
I just want to update the minutes, that's all.
Well,
That's my right.
There's going to be a vote. Let me let the chair speak. There's going to be a vote.
Yes, sir. Okay, Steve's rewriting of the minutes is what it was requested that that section of the bylaws, or excuse me, of the minutes be rewritten to right. It omits a couple, well, it doesn't have to bring them up because it doesn't have to bring them up because it's a revision. But what was said by Tom was that it's an improper motion or an improper vote to vote on the bylaws because the bylaw change has to be submitted to the state of New York, therefore we cannot vote on it tonight. That being said, that's simply not correct. The Constitution is not filed with the state, and nor does it require it to be filed with the state. So it wasn't, so his statement that it was an improper motion and it was a requirement that we submit it to committee or, commit to a committee was unnecessary. There's no reason we could not have voted on those bylaw changes that night.
Yes, okay.
I just wanted that to be on the record.
okay, so just very clear,
Therefore, there's no reason why the minutes should not be amended.
I didn't say there was any requirement that the changes be submitted to the state. We are a corporation under the state laws, and our bylaws have to comply with their rules. What I explained was we have two documents. We have a Constitution comes first, and the bylaws come below that. It is the Constitution that creates the structure. It is the bylaws that create the operating rules. So the Constitution sets forth 6 officers. In order to add or subtract or change those officers, you must amend our Constitution. That comes first. So my point was, there was, within those amendments, an amendment to change the bylaws to create an officer, and that cannot be done. An officer must be created within the Constitution.
I'm sorry, sir, I don't understand the response.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
wait. So wait, before I say this, all I'm going to say, we could do this all night and get nothing accomplished. But I encourage you, Steve, and I encourage you, sir. November is coming up. I encourage you both to run for president. And then guess what? Then you will be in this seat, and then you can entertain both the cameras and the spit yelling. But that's just a statement. Kathy?
Oh, I have 2 points.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
First of all, are there copies of that rewritten to amend the minutes?
I just submitted it to
All right, so
officer.
we just...
I have another motion. Hang on a second.
Wait a minute. No,
We've done this in the past. Oh, go
I
ahead.
have the floor. Are there other copies?
No, I just had the one that I submitted to
So
them.
I think we should table this till we all get to read that to digest between the minutes. May I finish?
I wanted to second your motion,
No.
that's all.
You don't
I
have to
agree.
vote, I know.
Okay.
I would like to table it till we all have a copy.
Yeah.
Till the next meeting. I don't know if I need to make a motion for that.
Yeah, make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I'll second the
So we all have
motion
a
because
copy?
we've done this in the past.
And I'd also like to amend the minutes for regarding the barriers, which Tom Smith, you have a letter from the DOT. I'd like to put that on the table for when we amend the minutes. Thank you.
So
That's my
So
motion.
just call for a
Table it.
vote on the motion to table it.
I'm going to call for a motion to take a vote on tabling the minutes and then we'll address it at a later date.
At the executive
At the
committee,
executive
and it will be
committee.
brought up at the October meeting for a vote.
What Tom said. For those that want to table it and move on with the meeting, raise your hand.
All right, we're in agreement. There you go.
We're tabling the motion. And anybody opposed to tabling the motion? Okay.
Okay, I'll ask you again, sir, not to make comments when we're in the middle of the process, especially that you're bringing out.
Barbara just asked me a question.
No, you were making a comment while we were taking a vote,
Oh, okay.
okay?
Sorry.
You want to play your tape so we could,
I've got lots of tape, Bill.
okay. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just say one thing? Just because, I'm a member of the Legion, American Legion, I'm a member of the Garden Club, and I'm a member here. I've never seen such controversy over minutes in
Yes.
life. I mean, just cut the crap. I mean, please.
Thank you. Okay. So, we make a motion to waive the minutes, or we move forward?
No.
It's been tabled.
We're going to the executive board, we're going to hash out
Okay.
the proper wording, and it will be resubmitted for a vote at the October meeting. And this has been done before, so.
Okay. Treasurer's report. We're moving forward, folks.
In our regular civic account is $10,620.87. In the SON account, which I explain every time, and hopefully there's some new people here, so I can explain again, about half that, around $12,000. So the total amount in our SON account, which stands for Save Our Natural Environment, it's basically our legal fund, started back in the 90s, I guess, when we were fighting the water park and all that stuff at Orchard Beach. So that's a separate account. We have $23,089.11, but about half of that is monies that came from movies, TV shows that were doing productions up here, and they would periodically, when they did it, donate money to the Civic, and we've agreed that between us and the Chamber, we're going to use that money for a beautification project or something like that on City Island, and that's the end of the treasury.
Okay. So let me start with something that we've all been affected by in a positive sense. We've been enduring some stuff for the last couple of years that was like just beneath the surface. And I want to say how it brought the best out in everyone. What occurred at the Black Whale, and there's a lot of thanks in this room, first of all to everyone, but I'm just going to call a couple of people out in a good way. You know, that sign came down. And that sign, for many on City Island, both old and new, is our sign. It's not just Richie's sign, who was supposed to be here, but unfortunately he couldn't. It's all of our sign. And when that sign came down, it touched us all. It touched us all, both old residents and new residents, not because it was a white guy sign or an elderly man sign or someone who was gay that owned the sign. It was a good man that owned that sign in that business. And that's why we all came out. We all came out and we felt that outrage. And that outrage was felt both in person, in reality, and on social media. And the hundreds of responses of working together to get that sign up, you know, and it was all triggered by one initial call to the help for the City Island. And I'd like to recognize Barbara Dolenzik and thank her for having the courage, and everyone else that's stepped up. That is, oh, you want to say something?
Okay, yeah, I just would like to thank also Robert Arthur King, who's an architect, worked on the island and put in lots of hours to help Richie get material and paperwork together to go to the Department of Buildings. Unfortunately, did not carry the day because of laws that are going to be changed, we hope, in the near future. I'd also like to thank Mary Colby, who sort of ran interference for Richie at all possible times between Robert and me and Richie and everybody else who got involved. So that's all I just want to add.
that a call went out to our elected official from one of the city islanders. And
That
for
was
the,
Brenda Prohaska, by the way.
Brenda Prohaska, thank you so much for making that call to Mark, Joe, and I. For those of us that were down there, he came down and he spoke to Richie, and there were tears in his eyes. And I'm going to say a name that may or may not identify someone that's part of this. So I'm going to say the name Teddy, and I'm going to say, Teddy Pryor, if you could stand up. Yes, this Teddy, the good Teddy. Teddy, I'm going to ask you to stand up and explain. Teddy and Mark had got together, and Teddy has graciously, not only on behalf of him, not only on behalf of the Civic, but he pulled me to the side and he said, on behalf of all of us, Teddy is willing to legally represent Richie in this issue on behalf of us all. And what Mark is trying to do briefly.
So briefly, if anyone doesn't know, I also work for Mark, Joe, and I on a part-time basis. And Mark has had a couple of meetings. He's been working with small business services at the council. He is the chair of the Small Business Committee in the New York City Council, and he's working to get a moratorium on the sign laws because they're antiquated. They don't really apply. There have been moratoriums in the past. In fact, there was a moratorium until Mayor de Blasio took office, and that's what opened up a can of worms. So he's approaching his fellow council members to get the laws changed because they apply to advertising, just broad-based advertising, as well as just a simple sign like Black Whale in front of the restaurant. And so we're trying to get a differentiation between, a business sign for the actual location versus some billboard advertising. And so he's been working on that, and he hopes to get the moratorium very soon.
Now, in case we have a B plan, and the B plan came from a fellow City Islander, and I'm going to let him go into detail, but he gave us a fantastic B plan, and I'm going to ask Dennis Fitzpatrick, a longtime Islander, to stand up and explain the B plan.
We can't legally do anything about it. We can take the sign down and put 2 small cuts in it. As long as the sign's 6 square feet and under, it's okay. So if they're not touching, there'll be 3 individual signs. So we can just keep them together so they're not touching. That's clever.
It is clever.
This is a victory lap for the island. And what it shows is, again, inclusiveness, old City Islanders, new City Islanders, coming together, think tank, doing positive stuff. And this is what City Island, at least in my optic, and I think many of us here, is all about. Banding together, working together to get stuff done. Billy, you have something to say? Billy McGee.
I just wanted to mention one other person was Michael Prioti, who was instrumental in getting Mark involved.
Absolutely, absolutely. If I forgot a name or 5 or 100, please forgive me. We can go on all night. Kathy, you had something to say? No, I'm sorry. All right. Oh, okay. Okay. So we got that covered. And what I would say is, folks, people are now speaking up that have been targeted. If you can come to any one of the officers here and speak to us in private, we will keep your name anonymous. And we've been getting a lot of notifications of homes, associations, and businesses that have had the DOB called on them. And what I say to you is, let this serve as a fact that we as a community have your back. Okay. I have the crime, safety, and security report. Anybody have anything to say? In my opinion, we will always have a fight on drugs, in this community, and we have definitely, again, in my opinion, worked to keep it down. I will tell you personally, last week I had the opportunity to work for Dr. Oz and Brooklyn North Police Department, where I can't believe it, after 35 years, they finally let me go undercover to buy drugs. and it was in Brooklyn, and there's this new drug, well, it's not so new, but it targets the youth because it's very cheap. Does anybody know what K2 spice is? Raise your hand. It simulates, for those that don't know, quick education, it's supposed to simulate pot. And they take any green, like plant mix, they chop it up, and they spray it with a chemical. What that chemical is, people don't know, and people are dying from it. So we want to check, and I will do this, and anybody else in any of the storefronts, just ask if they sell spice. They're not supposed to, and that is targeted for our youth because it costs about $2 to $3 a packet, and they can get their high, and it's like, you know, equivalent to like smelling a paint can, if you will. We don't want that on our island. We're fighting that. So let's be aware of that. So with that said, we have a couple of NCOs, and I'm going to ask them to come up, announce who they are. They are the 4-5 NYPD's gift to us. Let's welcome them. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, name yourselves, what you're doing, and if you could take a couple of questions, we'd appreciate it.
All right, so I'm Officer Graysinger. My name is Jessica. Like you said, we're going to be City Island. We're also Co-op City. So we're here to work with you guys. We can't be everywhere all the time. So if you guys see something, we want you to call us, text us, email us. We want you guys to be comfortable with us, to talk to us. This is how we're going to get things done together. We're going to leave our business cards on the table over there, so if you guys want to grab some before you leave. I know we've already worked closely with some people on the island, but we want you guys all to feel comfortable coming to us for anything. All right?
Pretty much covered it. I'm Officer Dean Sells. I've been in Fort 5 for a little bit. Like she said, we want to be more like community officers, bring that back. And like she said, we need you guys to tell us what's going on, because we see stuff on the outside, but you guys know what's going on internally. Like she said, we'll be here. All right.
Does anybody have any questions for the two fine officers?
I was the one that emailed you about the rabid raccoon on Schofield Street.
Okay.
Nobody came.
No, the officers came and knocked. They said that no
They
one
didn't
came.
knock on my door.
100 Schofield, 180 Schofield.
180 Schofield.
Yeah.
They didn't knock on my door. I was up till after 11 o'clock.
They said they came and knocked. Okay.
No.
I told
And
you to
now,
text me
as
back.
far as we know, nobody knows where the raccoon is.
Okay, there.
Which is not a good sight, because there are kids on that block and there are animals, other animals there.
So wait, so a little bit louder. So apparently there's a rabid raccoon?
I would say he was rabid. He sat on my neighbor's fence in between the two houses, I would say for about 4 or 5 hours, from 5 o'clock on.
Does anybody have anything to add regarding a rabid raccoon? Not the Guardians of the Galaxy, the rabid raccoon. Speak up, please. Stand up, Terry. Please speak up.
There was one on Center Street, and it actually took like a day and a half for somebody to come and do something about it. And they called 311, they're like, we don't do that.
Yes, that was a complete disaster, 311.
But when I emailed you back, I did email you back. When I spoke to
You
them.
sending it out to one of your...
Yes, and I said to tell me to call me back or email me back
I figured
if the
I'd see you
officers,
tonight.
no, if the officers went. At the end of my shift, I spoke to the officers, and they said that they went, they knocked, nobody responded, they didn't see the animal. There was another call for allegedly another rabid raccoon that they
Early
went.
that morning.
That day, that same night.
The same day.
No, the same
In the
day.
morning.
No, it was in the night, because they were the 4-bys. We were there at 4. You called me?
Because my neighbor originally called first in the morning.
Okay,
And my husband saw the police car over there, and he said it was because the man's alarm went on. But he didn't know that there was a raccoon around.
well, you
And
have
they
my
had
number
no one
here.
to see.
You have my number here. Like I said, if you ask me to do something, I always try and get it done, okay?
But I'm telling you the truth. Nobody knocked
well-
on my door last night.
They said they,
All right, we can-
okay, I'm not gonna go back and forth.
We'll
I'll talk
get
to
to it.
them.
We'll get to it later. If afterwards, we can get to it
Okay.
afterwards. Counselor?
So I have 3 points on that. So the first point is animal care and control is responsible for trapping wild animals. So if you're
They
having
did
trouble
nothing.
getting them through 311, keep trying. Second point, how many days ago was this?
This was yesterday morning. The
Okay.
first call went in by Jules.
Chances are by tomorrow the animal will probably be deceased. So folks who live in that area, I would
Let
just
it
say
die.
be very careful about letting your animals out, because once it starts to be deceased, it starts to smell really good to our dogs. And you wanna just make sure that your dogs aren't getting
There
into
were a
that.
lot of places that could go off and die under, porches
Understood.
and so
So
forth.
folks be careful with your dogs for the next couple of days that live in that area.
All right, thanks.
Do we know if there's been any testing on any of the animals around here? Have they actually determined that there is rabid animals in the area?
This one, all you had to look at it.
No, I just want to know if it was being confirmed at all.
I don't know.
No.
I was told on,
Health website.
excuse me, I was told on 311 that it was all right for the raccoon to be out during the day. That's all.
That is true.
They say that doesn't count for anything.
Right.
And then she told me, if it's there in the morning, call us back. But it was there until at least 11 o'clock, clinging to the fence. I don't know what happened after that because I fell asleep.
All right.
This morning, it was gone. Where, we don't know.
Yes, sir, in the back.
The raccoon is laying.
Please speak up.
The raccoon is dead now. It's laying in the front yard of 189 Schofield.
Case
The
closed.
raccoon is now dead at 189 Schofield.
They definitely didn't shoot it though. So don't blame us for its death. I'm just telling you.
Breaking news. Continue, sir. Come up here. The raccoon killer. Kidding.
You didn't touch it. I didn't touch it. It was in my backyard on my back porch. I was the first person to call 311, and they gave me ACC, Animal Care and Control, 5 times. Nobody ever picked up, nobody ever responded, nobody ever called. There are others, I've seen others in the neighborhood also. I've seen rabid animals before, and this one was rabid.
Well, this has been a growing problem, Teddy. And we had discussed getting raccoon traps, Councilman Joe and I, but then there was a big pushback. There was a lot of complaining about the raccoon traps. They were, FYI, they were humane raccoon traps. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he may still have that. You know, I'll ask him not to throw them out because we'll come back, you know, probably after November, and whoever wins, we could reintroduce possibly getting those raccoon traps.
It is very contagious.
Yes.
There are a lot of community cats in the area.
For those that love our pets and children.
Yes.
All right, so we're going to revisit this sooner than later.
Yeah.
All right, Teddy Pryor? Yep, got it, thank you. All right, any other questions for the good officers? Gloria?
Oh,
Yes.
hi. Since, I know this is a silly question, but since Co-op City has their own police department, why do we have to share these two with them? Can you keep them?
That's a great question, it's not silly. I think it's above their pay grade, but I'll let them give it a shot.
We used to have Mike.
Right.
Remember one time?
Oh, I think you meant Mike the cop from Abbott and Costello, for those who remember. Another question? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Too many TV police dramas where the police knock on the door. Every single time they knock on the door, they never press the doorbell. All houses have doorbells, pretty much.
No.
Okay, no.
I don't.
Meantime, try to press the doorbell and knock on the door.
All right, so what's on the floor is the police should press the doorbell more.
You want us to understand this?
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Are officers, are you assigned to sometimes do patrols up here, or just to contact you, you have to call?
No, we're assigned steady to here and Co-op City, so if we don't have anything going on, we're driving around looking for things. Like we have an issue on Reynolds Street at night, so if we don't have anything going on, we're always constantly going down there. We go down Schofield a lot, 'cause I know we had an issue down there too.
Yeah.
So we're driving up and down all the time. If there is a specific issue that you want us to address, you have to let us know, and then we're gonna look into it. Like these issues on Schofield and Reynolds, we've known since maybe July now, and we still are going every time we're out here up and down those roads. So you gotta let us know.
Was it West Schofield? West Schofield?
No, just Schofield.
There's two, east and west.
That's the west
Oh, the one on the
side.
right.
By the
By the
west
water.
side. By the beach issues.
Can you guys, I know part of the NCO program is the Build the Block meetings, and I know we're having a Build the Block meeting. Can you let everyone know when the Build the Block meeting's gonna be?
So we're having one November 7th. Mark your calendars. From the doors open at 6. It starts at 6:30 to 7:30. We're gonna send out flyers and emails. I'll email John so he can blast it to all of you guys. This one's gonna be actually at Co-op City at 2049 Bartow in their community center. We do 4 of them a year, so 2 will be in Co-op and 2 will be here. We don't know what facilities are always gonna change, but they're working meetings. They're to work together tell us your issues, and we're gonna try to find a solution. So basically, there will be refreshments in the beginning. Anything else?
Yes, gentlemen.
What shift do you work?
It varies.
It
If there is
varies.
something we need to do on a midnight, like Reynolds, there's always issue towards like 11 o'clock at night, we'll work a shift, so we're there for that time. If something's going on during the morning, like school kids are super loud at like 6 a.m., we're gonna do a shift to try to address that. So it just really depends on you guys.
And just take into consideration, with her situation, I was in the precinct and my partner, I was by myself, so they wouldn't let me go out. So we reach out to the regular officers that usually patrol in the area, but they're tied to the radio. So I called them up and they went, believe it or not, they went to that area, right? And they said that they knocked on the door, no one came. So I called them up, like she emailed me, and since I wasn't able to do it, so if I'm at home, I get an email, I'll call the desk and see who's working, reach out to them to go to and address the issue.
Aside from just
My bedroom
us.
is in the front of my house. And I kept looking at it. I know.
I
you were
believe
right.
you, I
Okay.
believe you. I'm
No,
just
I'm
gonna
just
talk to.
saying.
Aside from us just being the NCOs here, we have steady officers that work here. We have 8 of them work the 3 different shifts. So like you said, if we're not here, we're gonna reach out to them, and then they're gonna come. So hopefully they'll be a familiar face to you guys too.
So you're an addition to the officers we had before, or you're just part of that total count that always was?
They totally redesigned the whole way the NYPD patrol system is. Before you had patrol officers that would do City Island today, tomorrow they be in Co-op, the next day they're in Westchester Square. So what they did is they took, we have 3 sectors now. Before we had maybe 8, 6. Now they just did it to 3 sectors. Adam, Boyd, Charlie. We're Charlie, which is Co-op City and City Island. And we're the 2 officers that, when you have your complaints, you could come and speak to us instead of speaking to different people, so that we have, there's responsibility, and, it's kind of discerning if you spoke to Dean yesterday and then the next day you're speaking to Jessica. Everybody, they want everything centralized.
Yeah, we want
So-
familiar faces.
So you're not 2 people doing the same thing, all right?
Yes, sir.
This is something that was brought up a couple meetings ago, that maybe the officers have some insight on, maybe you do as well. The party boats, off of the beaches, East
Yes.
Chester Bay, Belden's
Yes.
Point. Because I live on Bay Street, we've
Yes.
heard them plenty of times.
Yes.
I know there was another gentleman
Yes.
farther
Yes.
east.
I'm gonna assume that's over your pay grade because I'm
No,
reaching
we
out.
actually,
You got
with
it?
John Doyle,
You've got many.
we've tried to address it, but like you said, it's the boats. I spoke to Harbor, and unfortunately, nothing was done until, what's the, Everest Pier?
Yeah.
Where the problem was coming from. The day after we went and spoke to the owner, that we weren't able to get anything resolved. The next day, one of the Sea-Doo guys ended up having a bad accident where someone died.
Oh.
So we've been trying to address it, but our COs reached out to Harbor, but
We're
they're
working on
Harbor.
it. It's hard.
Well, what we're doing,
I look at it this way, it's it's affecting, in other words, if he was playing a stereo that loud down the street from my house, you could come and tell him, you gotta turn it down, because there are laws about that.
I have a
Right.
call out, I have a
Shouldn't
call
be the
out.
same thing.
I got it. I have a call out to Chief Green. We met at Mark's house yesterday, Mark. We've been playing phone tag. And Mark, raise your hand. He has been getting, for those that live on the water or near the water, you can live halfway up the block at some of these places. And it's become, sometimes on City Island, we've seen cars where they have, megawatt stereos in the car where it's enough to break the glass. Apparently that culture has translated to jet skis and boats where they think it's okay to just blast and we're forced to listen to whatever music they so choose. This summer I went down to Mark's house to look for myself, and we sat there maybe a half hour, and it was a scene out of Road Warrior on the water, the way they were playing that music. So we know it's the end of the season, we know it has to do with Harbor, and Mark has done a fantastic job, along with a few others, at corralling everybody and getting the appointment on this. Mark, I told you when you called, I was in the middle of moving and shaking, so I'll follow that up. And you guys work from your end, we'll work from our end, and hopefully come next summer, we'll get this done. Mark, you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say, we're sort of we're sort of coordinating all the complaints, so if you want to send the complaints to me, we'll compile them. My email is Belden, with belden.box@gmail, belden.box@gmail. If you have any complaints, send them to me and we'll put them together with what we're doing. 311, just to get it on the record, and if you get phone numbers, great.
Another
Mark, speak
suggestion,
up.
can I give another suggestion?
Oh, I'm sorry, Maggie, speak up.
I just wanna say that it seems to be at crazy hours, like Sunday, 11:30 to 9.
Well, last two Sundays ago, the guy was out there at 11:30 in the evening, and then he blew me out of bed 6:30 in the morning.
I just want to add to it that there is a big problem on the water, on there as well. And it isn't just all music. I mean, I was woken up, it was 4:30, he was blasting opera. You know?
Well, that's all right.
That's all
I'm gonna take two more questions for the NCOs, and then we're gonna move forward. Do you have something to say, Officer?
Yeah, just if you could just call the precinct so that when it's happening, the precinct knows. If you're not getting any resolve with the precinct number, just call us, because then we're gonna have to have our supervisors posted at the desk so that the officers working can get Harbor out there at that point. Because we get the emails and the next day, they're not there. And the Harbor's like, oh, well, they're not there, right? I was like,
Yes, sir.
So, I don't think, like you said, the music, the loud music is enforceable. But I know they drive the jet skis at night, so if you can enforce that, I think that's against law, because they have no running lights at night.
yeah, they have to be at dusk, they're not allowed to be on the thing.
But
Last
I
question.
know that the guy that passed away was riding at night.
Yeah, that's a way to get.
It doesn't matter, because the same thing, I saw you like that Sunday, remember?
Yeah.
We were working, I ran into him one
Pulled
late
me over.
Sunday, and then, yeah, I did pull him over. But then, as soon as I pulled you over, by the time I went back home, you had emailed us that the boats were back again.
Yeah.
I was like, this is crazy.
Last question.
Well, it's really a comment on what the officer said. And I will tell you, the NYPD is data-driven, and if you call the precinct, there will not be any data. Everyone should call 911. I know it's not the way we're wired, we've been raised to keep things, but call 911. Noise complaint is a violation of the law, so call 911, because the more complaints one police plaza receives, they're going to look at, they review data all the time, and then they go to the 4-5 precinct to Captain Guns, and they say you've got to do things. And if there are more complaints, they'll be able to allocate more resources to the 4-5
It's called
so that they can address all these issues.
All right. If we have pressing, all right, I'm just gonna say this. If it's a pressing question, I know the doorbell knock is pressing, but if it's pressing, yes, ma'am.
Okay. What happens when they're in the middle of the sound and they're blasting music? Is it the Coast Guard or is it you guys?
No, it's Harbor. The Coast Guard had
Coast Guard has nothing to do with it?
Coast Guard had a written agreement with us that Harbor handles the stuff within the city limits.
Okay, so you're on the water?
Yeah.
Not us.
Not us.
Different
I wish we
department.
could do that.
This is gonna be the last question, and then these good officers, they have their business cards. You can call them on your dime and your time. So Kathy, last question.
I went to the 45th meeting.
Speak up, please. Stand up, speak up.
I went to the 45th meeting. I think Teddy might have the information of this gentleman. The captain there gave out his phone number. Luana may want it. Gave out his phone number for when the incidents happened on the water. And I didn't write it down, but I think Teddy or this gentleman did at the meeting.
All right, please, guys.
Okay.
I just want clarity, 911.
Yes.
Or 311.
911.
Okay, so emergency.
All right.
Never called that.
We're gonna move on. Big hand for the NCOs.
And we ran on.
Oh, remember that? Do you know?
Yeah, a long time ago. I used to have here.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, we gotta talk.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. All right, moving on. Barbara, you're up.
Does anybody here live on East Marine Street? Anybody here living on East Marine Street? Okay, we had no response. We've had no response from the developers on whether they've gotten their permits or anything. The idea was they were gonna get all their permits in June and then start working and complete everything within a year, year and a half. And the person said invited.
Marine Street.
Marine Street. It's about 25 or 30 years ago, a developer bought the property on the east end of Marine Street. It's a very, very old boatyard was there, and then another boatyard, and it was a holy mess. They demapped Marine Street. This all went through the Euler process, and they transferred it from manufacturing zone to commercial. Not residential, which means that they can build an apartment building, which is what they plan to do, 2 apartments, not higher than 35 feet, which is good even with flood issues. And it's a very fancy looking thing. It's 41 degrees north, I think it's called, the apartment. And it's being developed by a very reputable developer. But the product, the guy who's in charge of the project seems not to be in town very much, so I guess not much is going on. I'll try to put something as an update in the next Island in the November issue if we can get any more information about it. I know the people on East Marine Street were very concerned about traffic and so forth. At the moment, we are looking into a whole number of different sort of issues on City Island. One of them is I guess this is okay to talk. The building opposite to the hair, To Go Express and the beauty salon. There's a building there that's been vacant for about 10 or 15 years. It was at one point a deli, but the person, and it was sold at an auction. It was in Virginia Curry's estate, as was the house that's next door, as were other properties on the island. And someone has bought that building, which is actually it's in a residential area, a residential zone. Most people think it's commercial, but it's not. And since it has been vacant for more than 2 years, it reverts to residential use. It can no longer be a commercial use, but somehow the Department of Buildings overlooked all that, and they've been giving permits to renovate an existing eating and drinking establishment. Now, anybody who can remember an existing eating or drinking establishment on that property, please come and see me, but in any case, I've told someone to be in touch with the person who's doing the development to say, please don't do this, because you're going to end up spending a lot of money that is probably not going to be able to be completed. And the city planning department is in touch with the buildings department to tell the buildings department, next time you give out permits, just check City Island Special District zoning, check on on whether, how something is zoned and so forth. And so we're hoping this doesn't turn into something. It would have been a restaurant with no parking, and it would have been, we need another restaurant, I know, but this was not the right place to do it. So in any case, that's the kind of thing that we've been following up. If anybody has any concerns about any other zoning issues on the island? Yes, Jerry?
The place on Bound Street, I think a big thing they're building.
Oh,
down
yes,
there on the
well,
water.
that's
Is that
got
gonna be
permits.
like part of the Seafood City? Or?
Yes, it is. It is part of Seafood City. We, in fact, Andrew helped. We went to talk to Jimmy Vacca about it, and we talked with city planning about it, and it's legal. DEC gave permits some years ago for them to redo the seawall there, which did need work. And now it's being built higher than allowed in City Island Special District zoning because of the flooding issues. I mean, that's the side of the island that gets the storm surges. So it is about probably 12 feet higher than it would be normally. It is in a manufacturing zone. It certainly can be a restaurant. We've been told that it will be a catering hall probably on the top floors, but not a hall like Scavella's. It'll probably be smaller rooms for receptions and birthday parties and stuff. And then on the first floor will be seating. I think that's still going to be the case. And there, it's being built by City Island Construction. Yeah, and your question about it?
One other thing is that, while I got you here, Down here on Fordham Street, seems everything's stopped it, it's built like 4 or 5 more places.
Yes, they are.
And nobody's moved into the ones that have completed?
Oh, yeah,
What's
no,
going on with
people have
that?
moved into some of the completed ones. There's
They
one.
haven't, but
These people.
They're members.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know that. A lot of them haven't completed, and no one's moved into that.
Yeah, they ran into some snafus apparently with some permits and stuff, but they're planning to continue. Yeah, no, a friend of mine's been trying to move into the one single-family one for months now.
Right, they're waiting for it to close. We were told that they should be closing by the end of October.
Yeah, yeah.
A series of them. They're nine
Which
nine
year?
units.
Did they mention a year? Did they mention a year?
That's the other joke.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yes, Gloria.
Do you know what went in UK sales?
No, the for sale sign is down, Jerry, do you know?
They've been working in there, and the
Yeah.
other day I saw these plastic tubes coming out of all the windows. I don't know if it was.
That was asbestos.
It's probably just
Doing a
I heard from a couple of the neighbors who live in that area. Apparently, it's in the UK building, it's supposed to be an electrical contractor. They had an office somewhere else in the Bronx, and they're moving it here, and from what I understand, they're not, at least the latest that I've heard is, they're not gonna be storing equipment there, it's just gonna be the offices. So it'll be similar to UK, just instead of sales, it'll be an electrical office. That's the latest I've heard. If we hear any more, we'll keep everybody posted.
Yeah, no, yeah, there were, yes.
135 Reynolds in City Island Avenue. Is that-
135 City Island Avenue, yeah.
Yeah, in Reynolds. Anything happening? with
Somebody
that?
bought it, they fixed it up, it looks a lot better than it used to, and I don't think anybody's moved in. I know Mike Benedetto has information on it, and Skip was finding out for me, who is the actual owner and what the plans are, but I believe it's offices. It looks a lot better. It used to be you'd walk by and a raccoon would look out at you.
Yeah.
No more, so
They
that,
work and then they
that's
stop.
good. Okay, anything else, that's
They
it?
fixed
Yeah?
it up really nice inside.
Oh, yeah, no, it looks great, yeah, exactly. Okay, thanks.
John, you have a motion? Yes. I do have a motion. First thing is I handed these out because this is also on there. This is our fall bus meeting. I took the liberty, we're having one at Jacoby Medical Center where I happen to work. And I want to thank Skip Giacco because the land ferry is going to be available that night, so you don't have to take the 29 to the 12 and wait at Pelham Bay Station. So thanks Skip, thanks the Chamber. We are going to have the land ferry. If you care about the bus and you want to come to this meeting, we'll actually take you from City Island Avenue to, this is on October 15th. No, Jacoby, not Cope City. Come to Jacoby, we have transportation to Jacoby, because I don't want people going to Cope City and then, trying to hang me in effigy afterwards because we didn't get public transportation.
What time?
This is going to be October 15th, 6 to 8 p.m. I'm just going to share a quick anecdote, and when we did New York Rising, actually, Edgewater Park got all their members there, stacked the membership when there was grant money being out, and as Jane can tell you, Edgewater Park got everything they wanted. So I want us to be Edgewater Park at this meeting. I want City Island to come out in full force, and I want us to ask for 24/7 bus service, and this is actually going to be a larger discussion about the Metro North stations that are coming in. So I want you all, if you plan on taking that, do you want to go from Co-op? Do you want to go from Morris Park? It's not my place to make that decision for you or anyone's. This is a public meeting. MTA is going to have all their experts there. Please, please come. Also, Jacoby does have some light parking, but again, we're getting the land ferry for you, so you don't need to even worry about that. So please, I need you to come to this. Moving on with the transportation theme here, there's been a lot of discussion, and I've seen it on social media, with respect to the ferry survey. They're doing another ferry survey. Remember, they did one in 2013, 2014. They're doing one again. So I had a conversation with the mayor's office. They reached out to me months ago. We really need to generate interest to our stops here. Now, I know some people feel City Island. I know some people feel not City Island. So we have to handle this like we handled the bridge. You remember with the bridge, some people want to keep the old bridge. Some people like the design they had. But everyone agreed, the consensus was that design didn't make sense. So I need everyone to come together now. And I'm going to introduce a motion that we start a petition. And the petition's goal is to get ferry service at Orchard Beach. Because that's the consensus stop. Even if you want one on City Island, we can deal with that later. let's get the consensus position that we're going to speak up, we're going to join with the other civic associations of the area, and we're really going to push for one at Orchard Beach. Because if they build one there, it's going to be a lot of money, and if we can demonstrate as a community, in concert with other communities, that this is needed, it's really going to go a long way. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make the motion. Can I have a...
Can we discuss it?
Absolutely, I'm sorry. Well,
Debate after the motion. Make the motion
debate
first.
after the motion. Can someone second the motion and then...
Second.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Kathy, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to say there was a survey, I don't know, it was on a few pages that.
Yeah.
To fill out the survey,
Mhm.
you could choose a few different spots. I know when Mark John was here, he had said they would probably move up the line at first to Berry Point Park. I don't know if everyone knows where that is, where the front golf is located. There was a huge parking lot there. And then it would make its way towards us, which makes sense. I would vote for Orchard Beach myself too. I've said that many times at many meetings here. Rather than City Island, I hope others choose the same. I think it would just be too much of an island. I think they would choose us. And another area said they lost, another civic association, they lost the ferry stop because the people couldn't get together and make a decision. And Soundview did, and they got the ferry. So I don't think that's what happy with dinner, but so. And Orchard Beach, I would choose that, but I think, I don't know about dredging, I don't know anything about that, I don't know if boats would go there.
John.
So maybe Allen Bay, maybe a section, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting point. I totally support it, but if we vote for something that's not feasible, does that really jeopardize our...
What Kathy brings up a good point. Everyone should fill out the city's official survey. This is just about generating additional support because they look for these things when they introduce it. So the motion...
And just for the point, this is not, we didn't discuss this at an executive meeting, did
No,
we?
there wasn't.
So this wasn't
This is the
discussed
sentiment of the
amongst
room. Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
board, so it's just to hit John's point.
Yeah. So it's to endorse a petition that we're going to put out. That is, again, just for Orchard Beach. So I made the motion.
And I just want to make a point to those who are on the fence. The motion is to have a petition.
Yeah.
It's not a motion for the civic to support it. So what I'm assuming would happen is if there's enough signatures on the petition, then the civic would look at it and say, okay, the people want this, let's now support it. So it's not really a motion to support, it's a motion to have a petition.
Well, I mean, anyone can do it. It is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and you actually just spoke, Kathy. There is a consensus that people want Orchard Beach, right?
The people that I
Okay.
know, but
So, yeah.
there is a survey already out there going to, I can tell you in a minute where the actual survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's already
Yeah.
going to New York City.
We're trying to generate additional stuff, that's all.
Right.
We're just trying to
I'm
make
just saying we
additional
should-
excitement.
I'm not against it, John, I'm just saying we should discuss it more
So let's have a petition.
and make
Okay.
sure that we pick the right spot.
Can,
Those in favor of the petition?
All right, so let's vote on it. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against?
Abstentions?
Carries, you know.
Okay, you got your petition.
Mr. President, just one quick thing, because there was some discussion about the IGA being about to close imminently. I spoke to the management, that's not true. But people, go shop at the IGA. Please do it, it's good for small business and it will do us all some good.
Just check the expiration date.
I'm not gonna say that, that's mean.
Okay, old business. We got any old business? Wow, we're moving now.
Oh, wait, announce the nominating committee.
Oh, do I know the names?
I don't. Helen.
Well, Helen,
Yes,
Helen, you do a thankless job. Please stand, rise.
When you're not fighting right.
You don't want to stand?
no.
Helen is the head of the nominating committee. Can you name the nominating committee?
Yes, myself, Gloria Kenny, and John Sheridan.
Let's give them a hand, because these guys, it's not like they're making a lot of money.
I'll give them a raise.
Double.
Okay. Oh, yes, sir.
Sorry, I don't know if it was still old business or not, but I was curious, aside from the discussion...
Speak up, you know what, please do it, because people, stand up.
Sure. Besides what was discussed at the beginning of the meeting, was there any progress to report on the bylaws committee? I'm just curious if anything happened.
Yes.
We haven't had a meeting yet.
Yes, we tried to have a meeting, we were unable to have a meeting. The meeting was couched, and we are in the process of wrangling a majority of the board to get together for.
We have a date set, Fred, middle of October, that's the meeting date.
Yeah, we'll
So,
send
the
it
middle
out.
of October.
We have a date, we'll get back to you next month. Good question. New business.
Billy, on the old business?
Yes, sir.
At the last meeting, it was voted upon to purchase a sound system.
Yes.
Voted on to purchase a sound system.
Yes.
And I know everybody's saying quiet, we can't hear you.
Yep, we're gonna get that.
We're getting it,
Okay,
it's
so
in the
that's-
works.
Okay.
And the motion also passed about childcare
Yes,
several months ago?
yes, this was, well, can I answer that?
Yes, John.
This was something discussed, there was some disagreement from my memory at the executive committee meeting about this. But I did reach out to the owner, and they said it was, not the owner, I'm sorry, the people who run the community center, and it is covered under the insurance. And we actually got a volunteer. Yeah, Eleanor King, who not only was instrumental in the Black Whale sign, she actually volunteered. So I'm hoping that there will be a consensus at the executive committee meeting, so we can finally move forward on this.
I'm hearing from lots of people
Yes,
my
and
age
kudos
that
to
have young children that can't make it, or only them or their spouse can make it, and childcare. That's why we want to fix it.
I just want to make sure, I know you reached out on the insurance, that's only my concern, I'm the insurance nerd. To make sure whether we have to have the community center have their policy endorsed to cover this as part of the civic, or if we somehow get the community center to be responsible for the program, and that's something I guess we can discuss the legality about it. That's my concern, the liability. I think it's heard. We don't have any general liability insurance specific. We only have direct criminal insurance. So we got to make sure it's covered under the community center's general liability insurance.
Yes, sir.
New business?
We on to new business?
What?
We on to new business?
Are we on to new business, or are we still talking about old business? We on to new? Okay, new business, sir.
In lieu of this opioid addiction.
Yes,
that we've
speak
been
up, stand
talking
up.
about so much.
Stand up.
Okay, there's a lot of talk now going on about legalizing marijuana, which, you know, from what I've been hearing on the news, there have been reports we're having meetings in all the boroughs, and I've never heard of anything going on in the Bronx borough. Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island. Has anybody heard anything in regards to that?
You saw the two cops right here a couple minutes ago.
Well, I figured it was, their pay grade wasn't being good.
All right, we'll get
that
to
one,
it.
so
Good question.
it was more for the politicians.
There you go. Anything else? Yes, Barbara.
You all remember Via Community, oh, sorry.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
Via Community Day in April, where we put up the pictures on the empty storefronts and did a lot of gardening and stuff like that. This is a group of volunteers who are working on City Island, who worked with Viacom, and to get all the people here and came up with the projects and stuff, and we're all sitting around with nothing to do. So we've decided to follow through with a number of projects, and the most immediate one is a community-wide tag sale. And this is something where everybody can do a tag sale on the same day, and we've picked November 3rd, it's a Saturday. And what we will do, I've got these flyers here, and it's online, it's on the Facebook pages and so forth, and up in all the stores. What we would like is to have everybody who wants to have a tag sale on that day is to send an email to City Island Drift. This is the name of our group now. It's named for an 1890s newspaper that was published on City Island. Of course, I remember it well. We have copies up in the museum that we look at every now and then. In any case, if you get a hold of either Maria Caruso or Lori Vega at the email address given on the flyer, then your address can be put on the map. That we've got a map that was drawn years ago by Alice Payne and Dottie's mother, and it's got all the streets on it, and so what we'll do is we will add the addresses to it so that everybody who comes to City Island can get a map and then know where to go. We will probably also have a bulletin board somewhere, perhaps on the Hawkins Street fence, which can also, where people can put their own little ads, and of course you can do them, but you have to be careful not to break the law about putting them on whatever it is, street poles, right? If they're up there, it's only for a couple of hours. It's not for very long, or else you'll get fined. So anybody who's interested in this, I'm gonna do something with the Nautical Museum, has things that could be sold, and so I'm bringing my stuff up because my house is kind of off the beaten track. And people can do that too. You can do collective tag sales and stuff rather than having them absolutely everywhere. So any case, come and get a flyer. We all have stuff we don't need.
What's the address again?
Address again.
Address, everybody's address.
No, email address.
Oh, email, okay, it is cityislanddrift@gmail.com. And that's all one word, and I send it to Maria or to Lori. And then you will get your name, or your address at least on the map. So we all have stuff we need to get rid of. And,
Elected officials. We got the elected officials here that want to speak.
No.
Wow. All right, does someone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second. Folks, thank you for coming. This is your civic.
New business.
I said new
Let's run
business.
through the business.
Everybody have a good night.